Hello, how are you? Hi. Welcome to another video. My name is Cari. Today is, weather update. Welcome to the channel. Yes, it is still a whopping 28 degrees out. However, something about, and it feels like 30 because of the humidity, excuse me. This morning, I woke up really early and I went outside and there was a hint, a taste, that little something in the air. I feel autumn coming. It might be my brain hallucinating because I want it so bad. It inspired me. I've been in the autumn mood since July. So I want to talk about autumn books, and I asked you guys to send me some specific requests, some recommendations, and I have compiled them. I know. I'm trying to be at peace with this. I know the second that I finish filming this and I finish editing it, I'm going to think of 1,000 other books that I want to talk about. So this is by no means the be-all end-all list of autumnal recommendations, but I had fun with it. So I had a lot of responses, but I think I have like about 20 that I'm gonna do. I might edit them down depending on how long this gets. I put them in the order in which I read them on Instagram. Here we go. Are you ready? We're just jumping right in. Happy September to all who celebrate, okay? Here we go. First one, and I got a lot of similar requests, was Studio Ghibli, but make it eerie. And okay, I have two for you. Number one, the first one that came to my mind is Lonely Castle in the Mirror. I could absolutely see Ghibli remaking this because it does hit the kind of intense struggles that children face, but it has this magical realism, very whimsy kind of story to it. So it is about a girl who is severely bullied and has a lot of anxiety issues related to that. Obviously, she doesn't feel safe going to school. As she is staying home from school, she finds this magical mirror in her room, and when she goes through it, she enters this castle, and there are other kids her age there. There's also this mysterious figure who wears a fox mask. It's not necessarily found family, but it's definitely like this sort of awkward friendship and sense of belonging and a sense of community that they form. Yeah, I just absolutely could see it. It actually is being adapted, so I'm very excited to see the adaptation, but that was first thing that came to mind. Studio Ghibli, but make it a little eerie. And after that, this one, I was supposed to Google this before I started. This is a book that I read so many times when I was a kid. Like this was just a book that I had the whole series, and I would just pick up any book, any page, and I don't actually remember what it was about. So the series begins with the first book called The Children of Green Knowe. It's a series of 6 children's novels. Oh, it was illustrated by her son. I didn't know that. It features a very old house called Green Knowe. I don't know how to explain it. It's just this kid goes to live with his great-grandmother in this house that has these incredible gardens, and he ends up meeting, I think it ends up being, I don't think it's a spoiler, but like he's somehow related to some of these spirits, and they just go on these adventures. And yeah, I just have these really vivid, I would say murky memories from the book, but I just remember them feeling so borderline creepy because they're like rocking horses that move by themselves, but at the same time so comforting and wholesome, which I feel like is truly an Eerie Ghibli vibe. And I want to reread them. I should get my hands on a copy, but The Children of Green Knowe. Next up, a lot of questions similar to this. Books for you are standing in a forest during an autumnal storm. And I couldn't really think of a good one for this, but one that just felt like the chaos of a storm and very autumnal and very in the forest, and one that I just think is a great autumn read, is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I really loved it. It is about a friendship between two girls who are very drawn to fairies and witchcraft and just the darkness in the forest, what is on the other side of the veil. And so they live their lives as if they're preparing to return to their rightful place as queens of fairy. It is just very dark and kind of like a storm. You kind of feel the story coming at you from all angles. A lot of it takes place in the woods. It just feels like chaos. Something brewing, I think, is what I felt reading the whole book. Yeah, I don't want to tell you much more than that, but if you like dark fairy tales, a bit of a gothic vibe, a mystery, there's a bit of time jumping, The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. This one I'm going to intentionally misunderstand you. This was a request, books that make you want to curl up in bed in the dark. And I feel like you maybe wanted something cozy for that, but I'm going to go the spooky route because I want to talk about these two books and I had nowhere else to really put them. So in case you want to read a book where you are curled up in bed in the dark, scared, I have two recommendations. The first one being The Silent Companions. I've recommended this book many times. This is a gothic horror, unsettling little story. Genuinely had me kind of freaked out, like goosebumps while I was reading it. And it's about dolls or like cutouts of things, which I'm not scared of dolls. Like the whole like Annabelle or like Chucky, like none of this one got me. This one, there were a couple jump scares and I was very freaked out. So it's about a woman who, very young, very recently widowed. I believe she basically like got married and then the groom passed away, so she is being taken off to his manor where he is like some kind of, not lord, but some guy with a manor, okay? She's never met his staff, like she's brand new, and then they just lost their like employer or whatever. So she moves into this house. At first I thought it was gonna be kind of Rebecca-esque. It is a little bit, but it's just eerie, and I recommend it. Silent Companions. And then the next one is The Hacienda. This is another gothic story, very Rebecca inspired, but it takes place with the backdrop of the Mexican independence. Our main character marries a man who had a previous wife, just like Rebecca. And she moves in with him. He's got this huge swath of land, and it's just, it's Rebecca inspired, so what are you gonna do? I don't want to tell you too much more about it. I remember not loving it, but I feel like also maybe I just need to reread it. Definitely had the spooky vibes, but also with a lot of historical references to it that I found really interesting. Curl up in the dark with that one. The Hacienda. Also, I feel like this person submitted this simply so that I could talk about it, and if you did, thank you. Someone asked for autumn classic adjacent, and I just finished reading Our Hideous Progeny. This is not a retelling, but this is a Frankenstein-inspired book, and it is so good. It's a debut novel. What do I have to say about it? We follow the great niece of Frankenstein, who has not really heard about what her uncle has been up to before his death. But she has naturally fallen into the sciences. She has been since she was little, very science-minded. And lucky for her, her husband is also the same. So they're kind of collaborators on all of their kind of scientific articles and illustrations and stuff like that. They are involved in the science community at this time in the 1800s. And a series of events occur that leaves them kind of broke. They've got to pull something off in order to survive in the world as they know it. So when our main character finds the journals of her great uncle and is like, wait, he brought something to life? Sounds like something we could use. So they go forward and try to reattempt Frankenstein's original experiments and bring something to life in order to get recognition in the scientific community. And how do you think it goes? How do you think it goes? But I just thought it was really wonderful. There were so many layers to it. I recommend, but I also recommend, I forget where I bought this. Oh, okay. This bookmark helps. I don't know if I got this at Kramer Books in DC, but that's where the bookmark is. Look at this version of Frankenstein. It's not a graphic novel. It is actually just Frankenstein, but isn't that just fantastic? I had it on my shelf. If I can find this edition, I'll link it down below, but yeah. Frank. Oh, Frank. Next up, Books to read alone in the woods. So this is one that I read recently, and I will talk about it soon. Technically, I believe this takes place in the summer, but the darkest part of the forest. This is a book by the one and only Holly Black, who just writes really great, dark, kind of off-putting fairy tales. This wasn't my absolute favorite of hers, but I think that it does give off a very specific feeling that I haven't found in a book in a while. It kind of reminded me of how I felt when I would read a book when I was younger. It is about a town that, for as long as anybody can remember, has had a boy sleeping in a glass coffin in their forest. He's a fairy prince, and nobody can wake him up, nobody can break the coffin, until one day he disappears. And shit hits the fan. I don't know how to explain it. We just follow, I would say, like 3 high school students who are trying to save the world, basically. Yeah, again, it wasn't my favorite of hers. Like, I don't think I felt the depth, like the attachment I have to the characters from The Cruel Prince or even from Stolen Heir. I didn't feel quite as attached to them, but it just had the vibes. So if you're okay with that, it all takes place in a forest. So if you want to read it alone in the forest and hopefully, well, hopefully not, or hopefully wake up a 100-year-old fairy prince from his crystal coffin, there you go. And after that, I have the physical. Language of Thorns. I would highly recommend reading this. This is Midnight Tales and Dangerous Magic. I believe it is 6. I did this last time too. Last time I talked about this, I was like, oh my god, there's photos in here. Anyway, that's a fun surprise. Baby me. Yeah, I believe it is 6 different stories. They are illustrated. They're just dark little fairy tales, and they're very just the classic fairy tale. You know, the moral of the story is they're really good. They really set the mood. And so if you find it's really dark, right? This would just, if I were sitting in a forest, I would want Lee Bardugo to somehow come down from the heavens and read this to me, but the next best thing would be to read these to myself. So, Language of Thorns. Next up, books that scream revenge is best served cold. I just finished it. Look at that. Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. This is a Anthony and Cleopatra retelling. Chloe Gong loves a Shakespeare retelling, but it is set in this, like, not modern day, but not past. Anyway, this unknown time period, they have cell phones. This unknown time period, which is set in Hong Kong, like specifically the Kowloon, I believe it was called like the walled city. So it's just one of those cities where everything is connected and like you can reach out your window and touch the building next to you. And like it's this maze of staircases and hallways and stuff. So I loved the setting. It's also a fantasy because there is a certain gene that people have that allows you to hop bodies. Your chi, you can like throw your energy into another body. It was cool. I think the more that I think about it, the more that I like it. But in terms of the revenge element, we follow quite a few different people, but mainly we follow Princess Kala, who all we know about her is that she killed her whole family. Like just beheaded them. So starting off strong, but she didn't manage to kill her uncle, who's currently the king. And so she has bided her time, training, waiting for the chance to enter this game that they have in their capital city, where you basically fight to the death. There's 88 competitors, and whoever is alive at the end gets all the riches. They like win the lottery, they get to shake hands with the king, whatever. And she's like, bingo, shake hands with the king, more like cut off the king's head, right? We follow her and a few other people who are involved in this. And yeah, me and Chloe Gong, her writing style is not necessarily my favorite because she tends to make scenes that I feel like are really important, really short. The ending of this book, it's a duology, by the way, an unfinished duology, so this is the first of one. The ending of this book is just like so quick. So quick. So the reading experience, I'm happy that I absorbed the story, but it's more like now after having read it and sitting with the story and thinking about it, I like it a lot more. But it's just she does things quite fast. So that being said, a lot happens in here. But yeah, if you want like a revenge tale, Immortal Longings. Once again, not finished. And then another book that I read recently that I still want to talk about is Blood Debts. This is technically about revenge, but it is not necessarily about how revenge is good. This is I believe it's a debut fantasy that takes place in Louisiana around New Orleans, and we follow these twins who come from a magical family who has been knocked from their pedestals. They used to be kind of like the head of their royal witch group. For lack of a better word, I forget when their grandmother allegedly killed her best friend, and ever since then they've been kind of shunned, you know. But for these twins, when their mom gets sick and they realize that maybe someone is cursing the family and setting them up, and maybe their grandmother was innocent, things get a little bit messy. And this is also a duology, I believe, if not a series, but it was really good. I really loved the magic, the imagery. It's very much like moonlight and potion. It had so many elements that I liked, so definitely pick up Blood Debts. I forgot to give a shout out to Dowry of Blood, which is also very stone cold revenge heavy, but check the trigger warnings. This video is gonna be really long, isn't it? So I'm gonna be kind of quick. Somebody asked for crunchy leaves. So many people asked for crunchy leaves. How am I supposed to... What? A book that feels like crunchy leaves? I did my best. So, The Stolen Heir, another Holly Black. It takes place in the forest. It's all about crunchy leaves. I'm pretty sure everybody has leaves in their hair, leaves in their clothes, leaves in their shoes. It's just a lot. It's a lot of nature, and I'm pretty sure it's crunchy. So, Again, I don't want to make this video too long, but this is a series that comes after A Cruel Prince. Technically, you don't need to have read The Cruel Prince to start this series, but it will mention characters from the previous series, so it will kind of spoil it, but yeah, I don't want to go into too much, but it's basically fairies on an adventure in the woods. That's all I got, sorry. And then after that, I would also recommend A Far Wilder Magic. This was such a fun little book. It's a standalone. It's about a magical competition. It's a little bit of not enemies to lovers, but certainly not friends to lovers. Also forests. Our main girl lives in a little cabin in the woods, far from everyone, and I'm sure the leaves crunch. Someone asked about California Autumn, and I'm gonna get dark here for a second. The two books I want to recommend for a California Autumn, October in California, is number one, Life as We Knew It. This is a catastrophic post-apocalyptic book. October in California just reminds me of wildfires, unfortunately, of getting ready to pack up your house at any time and standing in your driveway with your neighbors waiting for the call to evacuate while watching flames all around you on the hilltops. So, Life as We Knew It. What happens if a asteroid hits the moon and brings it just a little bit closer to Earth, changing the tides, changing the weather patterns? What would happen then? I remember reading this book when I was younger, and after finishing it, I felt like I wanted to go to the store and buy canned foods because I was so scared. And then, of the same vein, maybe the adult version of this book would be then Station 11, which is another post-apocalyptic book, and also reminds me of packing up my house and getting ready to run. So shout out to California Autumn. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys have a box. I feel like if you were born and raised in California, you know to have a fire box. But if you have just recently moved, please make sure that you have a box in your home with all of your important documents and things and family photos and things that you absolutely don't want to lose, along with some water bottles and some granola bars. Have it so you can grab it and throw it in your car, unfortunately. So that is my bleak recommendation for a California Autumn. These two really quick. The Request. Spooky Girl Gets Spooked. These are both the second books in series. I think you need to... Spooky Girl doesn't get spooked that easily, you know? So you need to wait. And usually it's the second book where we hit things where Spooky Girl gets spooked. So I will recommend Hellbent and Harrow the Ninth, both of which have necromancy. At least this one has demon stuff. This has a lot of bone weird stuff. We do bones, which the first book would be Ninth House and Gideon the Ninth, which I love so much. Next up, someone just said mushrooms, romance, gothic. I got you. So first one being, What Moves the Dead. This has mushrooms, not so much romance, but definitely Gothic vibe. There's a lot of creepy ass mushroom stuff going on. And it's very short. T. Kingfisher always writes incredible, wonderful, short books. And this was definitely one, and it felt very... Yeah. Another one which has, I would say, mushrooms, romance, Gothic, would be Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This has so much wonderful nature, but also fairies, but also like kooky academic stuff. Loved. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, welcome. I loved this book. And then finally, the one that I think actually has mushrooms, romance, and Gothic atmosphere, all the same font size, is House of Roots and Ruin. I read this really recently. This is the sequel to A House of Salt and Sorrow, but I do not think, as long as you're okay with spoiling House of Salt and Sorrow in terms of deaths and romances, you don't need any of that background information to read House of Roots and Ruin. It will just be, you know, the names will be kind of spoiled for you. House of Roots and Ruin, it's got creepy greenhouses and poisonous plants and romance and things going bump in the night and hallucinations and yes. This one got me. Someone asked for a quick book to read in between studying and crying for my tests. I've got you. Okay, so first one I would like to recommend, Thorn, Hedge. Again, I recently read this. This is also by T. Kingfisher. It's also very short. This is such a cute, quick fairy tale, literally just about a fairy guarding this tower for unknown reasons. Does she even know? We don't know. And this knight comes up and is like, hi, it's my job to rescue the damsel in distress and like check this tower. Can I come in? And the fairy is like, ugh, I have to scare this man away. And the story goes on from there. It's like 100-something pages, really quick, really cute. Wonderful. However, I've also got this for you. Did you see that dust? Haven't touched this in a bit. I haven't talked about this. I used to talk about this all the time when I started my channel. I love these books. This is The Moth Presents All These Wonders. The Moth still is a community in which they will pick different cities. It's a traveling event, and they will have speakers. Anyone. It could be like a celebrity. It could be just a person who walked in off the street. Anyone who has a story to tell that is true, that coincides with the theme, whatever theme has been set for that particular talk. They also made a podcast of it, but this is some of the best stories recorded. There's this one, and then there's also Occasional Magic. So these are all really short. Like, all the stories could be anywhere from like 3 to 10 pages long. They just kind of restore your faith in humanity. Some of them are very sad, some of them are very funny. And so if you are you just need a break, and you need to like remember that there is a world outside of your study cubicle at the library. Check this out. All These Wonders, The Moth. Easy peasy. This one, books that feel like you're in Forks, Washington. I have 2 for you real fast. Number 1 being The Wicked Deep. This has witches and drowning boys and technically the summer, but it doesn't feel like the summer because it's in the Pacific Northwest. Pacific Northwest, small town, houses on islands, morning mist, so on and so forth. Mysterious boys. And then the second one is Spells for Forgetting. This also, I believe, takes place in the Pacific Northwest. It's like an apple. Am I thinking of the right book? Anyway, yes, it's very like returning to this tiny town nestled in the apple and pine trees of Washington. Very Forksy vibes. It's very like cool toned. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Oh, I just want to talk about books for longer, and this video is going to be hours long. Books where the love interest keeps looking back and forth between the main character's lips and eyes, which is my favorite thing. My favorite thing. I'm going to give you 2. First one, The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. So fucking funny. This book is so dumb So funny. It is about, how do I even explain what it's about? I don't want to tell you what it's about. But the vibes go as this. There is a retired highway robber. There is a son of a duke. There is a cafe where all the shit goes down. It takes place in the 1700s, so there's a lot of like waistcoats and Grumpy versus Sunshine, and the banter is so great, and it's one the queer principles of Kit Webb. Second one is Heart of Stone. This one is also taking place in the 1700s. It's a lot eerier. It is about vampires, particularly one vampire and his new secretary. Need I say more? Okay. This one, also easy peasy, fantasy K-drama, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. That's all you need to know. Done. A book that will feed my emo heart. This is difficult. I will say, just because I want to talk about it all the time, One for My Enemy, weird Romeo and Juliet kind of retelling. I know that the writing style is going to be really hit or miss for some people. I loved it. Dark, gritty, criminal underworld of witches who live in New York City. There are two families, always fighting. I can't tell you much more, but it was so good. It's maybe one of my favorite books of the year. I really loved it. I understand why people don't, but I did. One for My Enemy. It's got roses and knives on the cover. Of course, it's an emo book. Books about elite, pretentious academics that were not We Were Liars or The Secret History, I believe is what you said. If We Were Villains. Easy. It follows a group of theater students as they put on a series of Shakespearean tragedies. And does perhaps life imitate art? Does art imitate life? What happens when somebody ends up dead? Books about tea. A magic steeped in poison. It's literally about tea magic. And it is so descriptive. It's a duology. I did not love the second one, but I did enjoy the first book. So descriptive in terms of the actual tea, but also the food. Like it just, I really like the first one. It is about a competition for who's going to be the royal tea master, and this is the only way that this girl can get an audience with the emperor in order to ask for help, because her mother and now sister seem to be dying of this strange poison, and she needs to get to the bottom of this. Great. Also, oh my god, the author of We Free the Stars has been teasing me with this book for, it feels like years. It's probably been months, but it feels like years. A new book coming out, hopefully soon, called The Tempest of Tea. Hold on. What's it about? Let's talk about this because I'm waiting for it. Expected to come out February 15th. This will be a duology. On the streets of White Roaring, Arthi Casimir is a criminal mastermind and collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea room transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by dark, catering to the vampires feared by society. Please look at that cover. Okay, books about tea that I haven't read yet. The Tempest of Tea. Go pre-order it. The person who asked for these kind of books, you are my kind of person. A book that feels like a gut punch and a warm cup of coffee on a rainy day at the same time. Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about it again, but One for My Enemy definitely felt like that. I will also say The Binding. This is a fantasy, but it is told, it feels like it's two different, almost three different books in one because of how the plot goes. But in the beginning, it's very much like our main character is learning how to be a bookbinder. So it's a lot of imagery of like mornings in the workshop and just like making books. Like it felt very ASMR in the beginning, and then it does punch you in the gut. Real hard. That's The Binding. And then of course we need to talk about Divine Rivals. Yes, everyone, I'm so excited that everybody seems to be enjoying this. I didn't think it was my favorite book of the year, but I did like it, and I'm excited for the sequel. Divine Rivals follows two journalists who are fighting for they have an internship together, and they're fighting for the one spot at the newspaper, but their society is being torn apart by war, and there's also this magical cabinet where our main girl can send letters and she thinks she's sending them to her brother and he never answers back, but somebody else is receiving them and someone finally answers back. And it is just this cute little romance, and then it hurts. Divine rivals. Next up, very specific. Ancient spells, magic, talking trees, weird forests, shadows in the corner of your eye. Did you know that I just read the Raven Cycle? Because that's the Raven Cycle. I put the Raven Cycle and then also the Bear and the Nightingale. I think also had elements of that. And also the Black Witch, even though I'm really upset at how the series has continued. The first 2 books were good. So if any of those striked your fancy, there you go. Lots of requests for creepy forests, and the Raven Cycle is the only thing on my mind right now because I literally finished it last night and I am a broken human. So that will be coming out next week, by the way, if you want to watch me break. Haunted Castle on the Hill, Gilded. I read this a while ago and I did not love it. I reread it in order to read the second book, and I liked it a lot more. I don't know what changed. Was it me? Gilded is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, but there are fairies and a haunted castle where the walls bleed and the tapestries change and things only come out every full moon. I liked it a lot more the second time. I will also then recommend to you A House of Salt and Sorrows, which is very much more like a haunted castle creepy vibe for ya, which again I didn't love, but I think that I need to reread it based on how much I enjoyed House of Roots and Ruin. And then last but not least, this isn't a castle, and I personally didn't love it. There's also Lakesedge, which is about blood magic and a lake and a moody boy who doesn't share his feelings when he really should, and everyone could just help each other if we just communicated, okay? Last 2 requests. First one being Melancholy books for autumn. My 2 recommendations will be Sea of Tranquility. This is by the same author as Station 11. This is very much, again, kind of post-apocalyptic. It's about time travel. It's very sad and surreal and futuristic. I believe we live on the moon now. Don't remember. But I just remember it was very kind of slow and sad and short, but beautiful. So yeah, Sea of Tranquility. And then one of my favorites from last year, Our Wives Under the Sea. So good. It's got that very eerie feeling, but it's really beautiful, but definitely leaves you feeling quite melancholy. This is about a woman whose partner is a researcher that involves her going into submarines, and she disappears for a long time, and when she comes back, something's not quite right. And it was just so good, and I really liked it. So I will always recommend Our Wives Under the Sea. Okay, last one. I promise. A fantasy romance that will make me kick my feet and giggle. I've got you. Don't worry. I mentioned Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I do think that that is a very, subtly Howl's Moving Castle coded, goofy romance that I loved. But for 2 new ones, I will recommend Garden of the Cursed, which is the first book of a unfinished series, but it's really funny. We follow a girl who used to live in kind of the royal circle, but then when her mother, who I think was like a guard or something, when her mother disappears, she then leaves and goes back to live not with royalty, and she has a reputation of being a curse breaker. And so she's like basically a freelancer, and she will... The magic system's really cool. I don't want to go too far into it, but she can break a curse for you if you need her to. And so when her kind of ex-best friend shows up at her doorstep to ask her to break a curse, she finds herself wrapped up in this fake dating, hilariously weird little scheme that I really enjoyed, and I thought the banter was really funny. I really liked it. So A Garden of the Cursed. And then last but not least, I would recommend Half a Soul. This is part of a series that I have not read the rest of them. They're all like standalones but in the same world. I haven't continued them simply because I know that I would love them and I'm saving them for like a rainy day when I'm in a really bad reading slump and I could just happily read those books. Half a Soul is very Bridgerton coded. It's this short little story about a girl who is kind of cursed and she goes to help her cousin join the social season in London and she gets in a little trouble. And I thought it was just really cute. And again, it's pretty much a standalone. I really enjoyed it. And so if you just want like a cozy, quick autumn fantasy romance, Half a Soul does the job. So, like I said, I know that there are books that I want to put on this list that I have forgotten about, but I hope that this gave you something new to read. Maybe. I know that I talk about, like, I'm the kind of person that I have books that are my favorites and I will recommend to everybody, so I tend to repeat myself, but I hope you found something new or it pushed you to finally read a book that I have talked about for ages. But I'm gonna let you go now because we've talked for too long. You should get up and you should stretch and you should get a drink of water, please. Not coffee, not juice, water. Go drink some, okay? Love you always. I hope you're having a good autumn. For my Southern Hemisphere folks, sending you some autumn vibes. And I'll see you guys next time, okay? To watch me lose my mind over the Raven Cycle.